Nityanandam, this is my Nitya Shiva Mayananda.
This is Manitya Swatantara Priyananda.
And today we are here with a video together to actually explore and share about the guru-disciple relationship. One of the most misunderstood mystical topics. So that's why we are exploring it together and sharing with you to give you more of the insights of the experience of the guru-disciple relationship and the different dimensions of it. And let's start just with an introduction, like to both of us, and how did we actually met our guru? Ma, can you start?
Yes. So how did Swamiji come into my life? So basically my family was connected to Swamiji before I started getting connected. Obviously the purpose of my birth was to be with him, but it took a little while before I started recognizing that. So initially it is my mother who found Swamiji after like so many years of seeking. She was always, just seeking for that truth, that ultimate truth. And she had listened to so many basically like teachers, gurus on YouTube. And the day where she found Swamiji, there's something in her that resonated so strongly. And at that moment, like she knew that that was the ultimate basically. And from that point, she just went to India for the very first time and went to her first program. And that was, I think, about like 9 years ago. And then my brother started getting connected to Swamiji. He ended up doing a program and then taking the vows of sannyas. So that was about 5 years ago. And in the meantime, for myself, it took a little bit longer. I was going through, my own life, and so many things were happening in my life, and I did not have that open space to guru, because I felt like, like I know what I'm doing basically. Like that was my thought current. And in the beginning, it's super funny actually to see the point where I'm at now and how beautiful and precious my connection to him is, because in the beginning I was actually extremely resistant, and I didn't want to even listen to even just any of his lessons. And then that one night something completely shifted in my space. And it's not like I ever, listened to anyone saying, oh, you should go, see Swamiji and all this. I was really resistant. And then that one night, I just remember how I was by myself and sitting in my room, and I was going through so much emotional up and down, and I was really caught in it. And at that moment, I was so experiencing so much frustration within myself, so much anger towards life, not understanding why I took this body. And I was like, so angry, feeling like, what is the purpose of this whole life? Always being caught. Like I started seeing how the patterns were repeating in my life, especially when it came to all these emotions that I would always end up being trapped in. And at that moment, I had enough. I said, this cannot be the purpose of life. And it was basically like the strongest declaration to Cosmos. And at that very moment, his calling came like from inside. It's just that clarity just boom, like just simply appeared in my space. It was so strong, so clear, nothing that could be denied or ignored. And I knew at that moment that he was the one who would be able to liberate me from the prison of the mind. And that was my context, like all about the mind. I just wanted to get out of that, because I had started to really experience how the mind is such a prison, suffocation. And so that's how I ended up basically in Varanasi in 2016, July 2016, my first inner awakening program. So that's how that's how Swamiji brought me in front of him. And since that moment, honestly, it's been such a intense path with him, such a liberating path. I now am a being who is so joyful to be alive. Okay. And before, Swamiji, I was so stuck. in that whole, depression and low energy, and manifesting in such, various ways, like in my physical body, like this low energy, always needing to go back to sleep even in the middle of the day. um, and then since, yeah, Swamiji appeared in my life, it was just the beginning of so much cleansing, so much healing. And now I'm in a state where I'm so like happy to be who I am. Like I feel so blissful, like to have this body. I feel so grateful to have this, guide, like the basically the best. I manifested like the best guide that I could ever manifest in life. So I'm just really happy. So that's
Wow, that is really awesome. Awesome to hear. From complete resistance to the most happy, blissful being.
I think he was I think, like once when we open up to Guru, it means like Guru, Paramashiva was already looking at us, right? Otherwise that connection cannot happen. So Guru is just there simply waiting for us to, you know, like open up, and then the connection, that shaft, like that umbilical cord connection starts happening.
Yes, for sure. Okay, let us dive more into the different dimensions of what a guru can do. But let me also introduce shortly how I met Swamiji. Actually, a completely different kind of introduction. So because when I first came to know about Swamiji, it was just friends inviting me. They said like, "Oh, we're hosting this program. You really have to come. You will love this and be very interested." I was like, "Okay, fine, I will come if you say so. I'll just do." And at that moment, actually, I did not know anything about enlightened masters. I did not know anything about Hinduism. Nothing actually. I just was introduced. I was doing yoga, but I had no idea where that was coming from. And I was reading about different philosophers, and I found out about Buddhism, but nothing about Hinduism yet. And throughout that program, I just had such a profound, deep experience. And Swamiji basically healed me from a chronic disease that I was struggling with for years. So that was an amazing introduction. And 2 weeks later or something, I did a weekend program and I got introduced to like the completion techniques. And I was really having such deep experiences of being liberated from all kinds of like patterns and a load that was on my back for a long time. And just because of that deep experience, I got so deeply connected, and I was really, really clear, like, okay, everything I've always been looking for in life, that is what I'm finding here in this kind of an energy, in this kind of a deep truth. So I don't know who this enlightened master is exactly and how this all works, but I want to know everything about it. So that is how actually my journey started. And apart from these friends, I had nobody in my environment that was actually busy with anything like this. So it was a completely new introduction. And yeah, then I had to find out what is actually a guru, and how does this all work in this relationship. How do I behave with him, and what is he actually doing in my life. And the more I found out, the more I started realizing, like, wait a minute, I've always felt like we should not be living the way everybody is living here, what I see everybody doing. And like, so many signs are there that something really needs to change. If I look at how we organized education or healthcare, or like the way basically we get along with each other, it must be possible to do this in a whole kind of a different way. So I kept on searching, but I was searching at universities here and could not find it. And then suddenly Swamiji turned up, and everything started to fall in place and got introduced to this whole Vedic science and tradition that literally has everything to live in that different kind of a way, for which I felt like it should be possible differently. So yeah, I'm just like you. I'm very, very, very grateful that I found out about this and that I manifested a guru in my life. And yeah, this is actually the one relationship also where I feel all kinds of relationships that you can have in life are just coming together. And all of the experiences that I ever have had with people are getting healed and completely completed and integrated to like the
all
core
the
of,
gaps are getting closed, right? No more gaps.
absolutely, absolutely. Everything what I did not understand of earlier relationships, whether it is with my father, with my mother, with in relationships where I was in love, or like in friendships, whatever. All of these relationships are like getting purified, like with experiencing how you can be with an enlightened master. He's continuously, yeah, just such a pure light in your life.
And
Really,
it's
a
all the
GPS.
layers of the really what really
Really a GPS.
GPS
Oh,
guru positioning system, right?
indeed, indeed, indeed.
And
Yeah,
it's really like his presence really gets rid of all the different layers of inauthenticity that we carry and manifest throughout our lives, and all the different relationships. All these layers start, getting cleansed so that we can reach that core and radiate that bliss and connect to other beings actually authentically, instead of always having such a big gap, between our inner space and what we project to others, and all this nonsense that just cause so much misunderstanding between people actually, and always causing in the end so much suffering everywhere. So just closing that gap and being able to connect so authentically is such a gift. That's what I'm just, yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and one of the most actually funny kind of misunderstandings I feel is when people give like some kind of feedback of, isn't it dangerous to surrender, to just do what your guru says? Because I'm always feeling like, no, you know how hard it is to have that kind of a surrender. That is just the whole trick, that you try to do everything and anything to open up as much as possible. That is not something you have to hold back because it's dangerous. It's just the opposite. You want to do everything and anything you can to open up as much as possible for that healing energy, to just clear everything out and purify.
And I think surrendering is scary to many people because in the space of surrendering, we cannot have any vested interests. As long as we're not completely there surrendering, we can always have this thought or holding on to this hope or this, imagination or fantasy, and hoping that somehow all of this will get fulfilled. But this does not lead to the ultimate experience, right? Surrendering feels to me like it's that last step to take before just merging into that space of Advaita oneness. And in that space, yeah, no vested interest can survive. So that's why people are scared, because it's like, okay, but my identity, right? Like whatever I know as me, I've become so attached to it in this life. And surrendering feels like, okay, I'm going to lose everything that I know about me. But the secret, the funny part is that everything that we know about ourselves before, starting that path of awakening is actually not us. It's basically just an accumulation of different conditionings and patterns and all that. So
Yeah, absolutely. And what I very well understand is when people have earlier experiences of trying to surrender to anybody and then being exploited, right? Because all of us whenever we are not enlightened, we have these vested interests and we have secret agendas, what we want to get out of a relationship, right? So it's never completely free of what we want to get out of it.
So many
So
business contracts, right, between people.
yes, yes, exactly. And because of that experiences in the past, you're holding back, like being scared of maybe I get exploited again. But like when you have this experience of Swamiji, it is so clear that he is having such a pure energy. There's no whatsoever hidden agenda. It is just him making himself available to experience the most pure energy inside and the most pure relationship that you can ever have.
And one of the things that I love the most about Swamiji, having him as a guru, is the way that he always holds that highest possibility, that space of highest possibility for all of us. That's the mission of a guru. Like that's the only thing he wants, is to see you radiate that same bliss that he has experienced. So therefore, that is the most beautiful. There's no other word. I can't find a bigger word than that. Like, so beautiful to have this kind of relationship in our life. Someone who has no vested interest other than seeing us radiating that bliss and being in that state of powerfulness all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And even without that powerfulness, he can't guide us, he can't teach us. Because, of course, whenever somebody has a vested interest, he wants us to be powerless, to be able to get whatever he or she wants out of the relationship, right? But with Swamiji, it's really the opposite. He can only do something with us when we are in that high, powerful energy. Only
Exactly.
then he can guide. And actually, what is an interesting question, like how did we came to know about this? That Swamiji is that pure energy and this does not have any vested interest.
It's kind of, for me, I never, that thought never crossed my mind, not even once, not even wondering, oh, what is he up to and all this. And I'll tell you why. Because the first time I went to him, like you actually, I didn't know anything about Hinduism. I didn't know anything about Shakti's third eye, Kundalini awakening. I had no clue. I just, like I mentioned in the beginning, I was there to get liberated from my mind. Like, that's all I knew, the mind. I've had spiritual experiences, but what I had been conditioned with was, everything that happens in the mind and all that. But the first time I actually came into his presence and he asked why I was there, my answer was, Swamiji, I just want to feel so powerful inside. So I asked him directly for that state of powerfulness. That's all I wanted, basically, without knowing that this was actually everything that he embodies. Like the power guru, the one who just shows you that state of powerfulness at all times. And from that moment, when my being was so open to him in that surrender, he gave me that first experience of such intense Kundalini awakening. And when that happened, and I realized that I knew nothing about Swamiji, and he blessed me with this experience. And from that moment, it was just this clarity was inside my being. I just knew, okay, he's the one. For me, it was just, he's the one, he's the ultimate master, and that's it. Like, I'm just going to be on this path with him. And there was no doubt. I never felt anything else from him, like, because my first real, like, interaction or experience with him was just so raw and so real, and I was like, no one in society could ever, give me that. So that was my context. So that doubt was never there, and then it was just he just kept showering, giving me so many experiences, even of that divine love that just opens up and the whole space becomes like this huge blinding light, and all these experiences that he's given me, there's no space for doubt. So grateful.
Yes, that is indeed is beautiful. I had this like experience that goes way beyond the mind, which took me some time also to even settle down with that it was a real experience. Because when I was in inner awakening, I was sitting in one of the mandala processes where Swamiji sits in the middle and like everybody sits around in this geometrical figure, and I was sitting right in front of him. And then the next day we had another mandala process, and normally Swamiji comes in the hall and then the music is played, so we know exactly when he is entering. We make a pathway in the mandala process so he can walk and sit in his chair, right? And this day, afterwards, the program coordinator even told that Swamiji had said to her not to play the music. So we were asked to sit in meditation, and I was just in complete meditation, and suddenly I felt the hand on my head. And nobody had heard him coming. Nobody had come out of meditation. Nobody had made any path. He had told the program coordinator, Mayanatma Swami, like, just leave it like that. I'll find my way through, in between. And I felt that his hand on my head, and I don't know what it completely opens up, but my whole being opened up, and I have been, I think, for at least a few days, been in samadhi, in a complete different state altogether, like feeling so innate blissful and so strongly empowered and connected with everything. And something that popped up suddenly was this memory when I was like 5 or 6 years old. And I was laying down in bed at night, and actually the lights were off. I should have been sleeping, but I could not sleep. And at a certain moment, I felt a hand on my head out of nothing. And somehow that there was one part of me that was kind of freaked out, like, what was that? Where was it coming from? And at the same time, I knew it was like the most blissful being ever that did this, like feeding your grandpa who loves you so much, like that kind of everything will be all right feeling just by that hand. And because Swamiji exactly touched my head like that, I was in this process, knowing for sure Swamiji knows me all of my life, and I'm here only for to live with him and to be part of this mission. And afterwards, I was like, my mind started playing with it, like, how can that possibly be? How could at 5 or 6 years old that already have been Swamiji? How is this connected? Of course, the mind cannot make sense of it. So in the end, I could not do anything other than just letting all of these questions just go, because the experience was so extremely strong that it made me also like completely clear that this is why I am here now in the planet, on planet Earth.
And that clarity about the purpose of our life is the biggest blessing that anyone can receive. Like, if we look around, we see how many people are struggling, not knowing what they're doing, why they're doing what they're doing. Like, Guru is actually there to remove all the false ideas, like all these
Yeah.
desires that don't even come from us, that are just dumped on us by society, or people around us that don't necessarily have ill intentions towards us, but it's all part of this societal conditioning. And Guru comes in your life and just removes the whole thing and just shows you and makes you become so clear. Like that's the word that comes out of me and you when we share. It's that clarity just comes, and we become so stable, knowing that it's such a relief also to know, like, this is why I'm here. This is why I came. And coming here is a conscious decision. When we take the physical body, it is, our decision to come because we actually want to get that liberation. and then, based on whatever karma we have to go through, as many many things in our lives before awakening happens. And it's, yeah, for me, it's really seeing how presence of guru just gives that clarity about the purpose of life and existence. And what I've come to realize is that my connection to him is actually the purpose of existence, because that connection to the source, that connection to Paramashiva, there's nothing beyond that. It's everything. So being able to have that experience is like, come on, like, I'm just so happy to be alive and to have this realization and this clarity, because then everything that happens becomes auspicious. Like Swamiji says, everything is auspicious. But as long as we have all this confusion, we get so confused by everything. We just have so many emotional ups and downs. But ultimately, when the clarity is there, everything is an opportunity for us to transform and expand and evolve, because that's actually the purpose of life. Evolving, evolution, transformation. So that's just one of the main reasons why I'm just so grateful to have connection to Guru.
Yeah. And I mean, you shared already some things that your whole life shifted actually. How would you describe to somebody who does not have a guru how your life is so different now than earlier before?
The first thing that comes up in my space is the way that I perceive everything. Right? Like when we're so stuck in confusion and patterns, it's like we're always in a state where we're waiting to get hurt. Whatever happens in front of us, it's like, oh, this person is abusing me. Oh, this person is doing that. Oh, life is against me. Oh, everybody wants me to fail. It's always these like powerless thought currents. Oh, we have someone someone here with us. so oh, okay. So basically, yeah, so from going to a state of feeling, always, yeah, being in a space of waiting to get hurt from life and others, to a space of feeling like every single thing is actually auspicious. I think that's how my life changed the most, because now I can take anything that happens to me and see it as my own reflection. Everything that happens now is a tool for me to look inside of myself and complete with whatever is there. So everything that happens around me, I am really grateful for it, no matter what it is, because I can always see how everything outside is helping me heal and complete everything inside. And then it's actually a virtuous circle. Instead of always being caught in emotional ups and downs, everything becomes a virtuous circle. So I think that's what I would answer to that question. There's no more powerlessness. There's no more powerlessness, because I recognize how every reflection is helping me evolve and transform. And that's such a powerful cognition. It's such a powerful context for life itself. And it just makes me become so, when Swamiji says like you're your own boss, and it doesn't just mean like, okay, in your career, you actually you start feeling so powerful to design the life exactly the way that you want to design it.
Yes.
And when he creates us, obviously with, third eye and all that, it's like the manifestation just happens so quickly and so beautifully. So I think that feeling, yeah, of feeling like I am responsible for my life, I can design anything that I want, is the most liberating context and cognition. So yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it's really extraordinary.
It's so rich. There's just so much to say. It's
yeah, it has so many dimensions. Indeed.
And actually, just that word that came out, rich, that's exactly what is happening. I've become so rich. Like, I feel so rich. I feel like the richest person in the whole cosmos.
Absolutely. Yeah, for me too. And what is like being a play ball into the whole of society, in all of these connections and things that happening and situations, and the whole switch to like becoming so extremely powerful, and as you say, being your own boss in the whole of life, just because you decide what is going to happen and you understand and you have the right cognitions to actually manifest continuously what you want as a reality. And what I also feel is like somehow Swamiji and the connection that I have with Swamiji, like whenever I surrender to him, I become more me. Does it make sense? Like it is the best way to get centered into myself. It's not another one relationship where you like do what somebody else expects you to do, or you try to please somebody or whatever. Because actually, like whenever I tried to please Swamiji, it didn't work.
Doesn't work.
Whenever I tried to just do what he says, it didn't work. Like he is continuously mirroring that highest possibility, and that is not doing that. That is not pleasing somebody. That is not like all of these powerless ways, actually, or cunning ways to deal with people or with yourself, for that matter. And continuously being like in relationship with Swamiji is continuously centering me somewhere inside where the best experiences of life come from, or which is life itself, because there's no me anymore in terms of all my ideas about me, but there is a way deeper me which is connected with everything.
And actually, as you were sharing, saying that you become more and more you, the more you're able to connect with Guru, it's because Guru is nothing separate from us, right? Like when we're stuck in society and this conditioning, we think, oh, it's me versus that person. There's always that separation, right? And there's always like a fight that happens, and again, like vested interest and all that. But Guru is actually just that reflection, and basically, it's he was explaining how the seeker in me manifests as Guru in him, and the whole space of highest possibility and authenticity is being reflected back to me so that I can see it, right? So it's like I'm creating the whole thing, and he's there to reflect that for me. So therefore, like the more we surrender, the more we open up to that reflection, the more we become authentic and closest to that core, like you're saying, where that idea of that identity just becomes so redundant, like, and you forget so many things about your life, also just irrelevant things, past, it just disappears. It's like it was never there. So yeah, it's like a yeah I see it as an alchemy process. The relationship with Guru is that alchemy process, and we create the whole thing, and he's just there as this pure space, and whoever is sincere in about wanting that transformation to happen, he's just always available. So again, it's our own, it's our own decision based on our yearning. If it's sincere, then he's the best. He's the best, most auspicious happening that can ever happen.
Absolutely, a beautiful, beautiful mirror. And it's funny also that you say like it's an alchemy process, because that also for me means that yes, there is a truth in like applying all the teachings. Of course, when we get up in the morning early, do yoga, all of these things that really helps cleaning the whole system and establishing, especially of course when we do puja, but actually all of these practices connect us more and more and more with that highest possibility that Swamiji embodies. And at the same time, there's also this truth that even regardless of whatever I do, Swamiji makes it happen in me. because whenever I just have on my mind like, oh, I wish I would be more blissful, or I wish I would be able to deal more powerfully with conflicts, or like whatever is on my mind, actually regardless of what I'm doing, Swamiji makes that happen. Like just in the few next days when I have that desire, that just manifests as a reality somehow. Do you also have such an experience that Swamiji is just doing
Absolutely.
doing it?
So for me, the way I experience this is just like you say, you know, you have these thoughts that come, oh, I would like to be more like this, more like that. At some point, the most recent example that really like such a huge shift happened to me where Swamiji just did it. I did nothing. All I did was I just asked Swamiji, like, Swamiji, I just want that space of responsibility for the whole world to open up. I was in a state where I just asked for that. I didn't know how to do it. There was nothing that I could think of. Okay, and if I do this, then all of a sudden I'm gonna start feeling, you know, this sense of responsibility and all that. And it just came from that sincere seeking. Again, it always comes down to that sincere seeking. If this space is sincere about wanting that transformation to happen, Guru is right there, and you know, it's like you leave the pathway so clean and open for that energy to just come through, and then the whole thing manifests. And I cannot, and that's when I started giving, you know, like offering to people like chakra sessions on Zoom, and helping so many beings based on Swamiji's teachings. And that space of responsibility just opened up from one day to the next. There's no logical explanation where I can say, yeah, it, you know, this was what happened. It went from me just asking and having that, you know, yearning in my space, from the whole thing was there. So who is doing, you know, like it's just Swamiji is constantly blessing, and the whole cosmos actually is just like Swamiji says, like a huge tatas to like, so be it, right? So definitely I relate to that kind of experience so much. And it's such a, again, it's such a relief because you feel like you don't have to do anything, you don't have to force anything to happen in your life. And anyways, anything that you do from a context of feeling forced or forcing yourself ends up backfiring on you, like it's just a sabotage, right? But in that space of surrendering with Guru, and it just simply happens, and the whole thing aligns, everything falls into place, and you feel so complete about the whole thing. And then other people start feeling enriched. So again, like most virtuous cycle. Yeah.
Yeah, that virtuous cycle is indeed, that is so key. Like how,
So rich just talking about it. I feel like the whole space is gold, you know, like that.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I was like a few weeks back we had Vakyarta Sadas, and I was contemplating about so many questions, and then suddenly I was just seeing like, wait a minute, it is all very simple. Swamiji is just my most powerful cognition. Like
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
the fact that I am able to recognize
Yeah.
his energy as the highest potential, the innate truth, not having any vested interest, like the most pure being that can ever be. And what more do I need? Literally nothing. Like as long as Swamiji is there, that connection is there, then everything will simply fall into place, and I will realize indeed the whole purpose for which I'm here. That is way beyond what I can ever strategize for, or whatever I can see right now, because I know the only thing I know for sure is that it's way beyond that. So just connecting to Swamiji and have him as my powerful cognition is is basically just enough in life to manifest anything, to experience anything, to for everything in
Oh,
life.
you froze me.
Oh, back
No,
now?
it's okay. Yeah, yeah. Now it's okay. But I
Yeah.
heard, yeah, definitely. And what you're saying is absolutely brilliant, you know? Like it all comes down to that one one powerful cognition, like Swamiji, and that's it. Everything happens from there.
Absolutely. Just seeking and Swamiji and nothing else we need. And that is also like the beautiful thing, because Swamiji is saying that over and over again. When you are my disciple, you actually don't need to do, not even completion, not sit and meditate, not anything. Of course, the spiritual morning routine is highly like respected in all of Hinduism because it gives you a base and to connect.
Frequency also, and yeah, like you're saying, gives you that space to connect. Yeah.
And but basically you don't literally need to do anything. Maybe in earlier lives we did already do so much of tapas that we are here now able to recognize, because that is also something that I find very funny. Not everybody recognizes Swamiji as that. Some people will not even notice. Some people like get disturbed somehow. And others just are having that clarity that both of us feel, and for which we benefit so tremendously in life. So yeah, probably everybody has his own path, but
It's interesting that you mentioned, yeah, past lives, saying that so much tapas was probably done in past life. There's so much that we don't know in this life, right? And when we don't have that understanding of the whole life, death and birth, like birth and death cycle, when we are stuck in that feeling like we have only one life, like that's just the biggest sabotage, right? Because we cannot understand the purpose of our life if we're stuck in such a limited cognition, when we don't actually see that consciousness is eternal. There's so much that happened before we decided to take this physical body, and which can also obviously explain a lot, like in this life, who's, how that connection is even there in this life. It's so much that happens before this
yeah.
physical birth.
Yeah, indeed. And even though we don't know about it, the experience of it itself is so strong and so powerful that really it blows away the whole mind in literally, like any
That's
ways
what I
to.
wanted from the beginning. No more mind. That was my context from the beginning. Just blow the whole thing up.
Indeed, indeed, and that is literally what he does.
Exactly.
Well, I think that is the whole circle round for this video perfectly.
I also feel this way. I also feel this way. As soon as you said that, it was like boom, circle complete.
Yeah. How, as Swamiji says, the infinity, the sign is actually not this; it's just this.
Amazing.
It's round. Well, thank you so much for sharing and exploring the guru-disciple relationship with me today.
I feel
Who
like
knows where
such a
did
gem.
what?
I feel like this is such a gem, like this space that was created, because I feel like this shiny, like light inside of me, and I feel like the whole space is covered in gems, and it's such a high frequency.
Absolutely. That was I just had this feeling we are going to create naturally dynamics that is worth watching. So if you have any questions after watching this video, or you want to get in contact with us, just comment on the video or below the video. We will put the contact details also there, so you can get in touch. And well, thank you very much for sharing this opportunity. And everybody who is watching, thank you so much for tuning into this video. And I love to see you next time. Be blissful, Nityanandam.
Thank you so much, Nityanandam.